Hey, this is AJ. I'm going to show you a video today about how to use Nessus to find a vulnerability on a system and get details on the vulnerability. But wait, there's more. I'm going to show you how to use a script to actually launch an exploit. Now, I wrote this script myself, catered specifically to this exploit. Right here, I'm going to type in the IP address of my router, which is 192.168.1.1. And see, if you try and hit any tabs to go to any settings, it asks for a username and password. So you can't log on to it, and you can't go onto the router web interface here. You can't execute any commands, you can't change any settings without being logged in, which is a good thing. But this exploit is going to show that actually you can. You just have to know what the vulnerability is. Now, you're going to use Nessus. You can go to nessus.org and download it, and then you need to install it. You need to register for a plugin feed, and then you need to, of course, download the plugins and then run the server. Now, what we're going to do here is go to policies. Now, I've already created a policy for this scan. Default gateway scan the router for flaws, and under plugins I had two families of plugins enabled, Cisco and web servers, because under web servers there's a DD-WRT vulnerability, which is the one that just so happens to be vulnerable to, that I found because obviously I've already done this scan and found the exploit, and for time purposes I wanted to go ahead and run the scan because it can take a while to do depending on how many plugins you got enabled. But see, on Nessus here, you've got all different types of families of plugins you can scan for. Backdoors, brute forces, CGI attacks, Cisco specific attacks for routers, switches, all that good stuff. DNS attacks, database attacks. Let's see here. You got denial of service, FTP, finger. You got general, which is all kind of different things in here. Also, you have a miscellaneous family of attacks. You got peer-to-peer file sharing attacks, SNMP, all kind of stuff. Ubuntu, Solaris, web servers, Windows, of course, etc., etc. And to do a scan, you're going to go to Add. You're going to type in the name of the scan, which you can call it router scan. Then you're going to select a policy once you create one of these policies here, because you select the plugins and then you hit save, and that's basically your scan template. So you can type in the name, then you select the policy, and then you put in your targets. Okay, I'm not going to go through and do all this. You can hit launch scan. Just because of time purposes, it would take a long time. You can give it a targets file too with a bunch in there, but we've already got a scan here in the report section that's completed. Double click on it when your scan's finished. Your scan will show up in the scans menu, and when it's done it will disappear and move to this report section, just FYI. Now here's the finished scan. You click on that and it's going to show you the different ports here, and then it's got the number of things it found, the severity level, so you can sort them by the port here. You can sort by the protocol, you can sort by the number of things it found, or the severity, which I think is a good thing. Now I've got the most severe listed first, right here on port 80. I'm going to click on it, and then right here it tells us DD-WRT HTTP Daemon Metacharacter injection or remote code execution. Now it gives you a description and even gives you a link here to read more about the exploit, okay? And this right here tells you exactly how it uses this cgi-bin in the URL with a semicolon and then a command appended to the URL to automatically execute it. Now what does that look like? It's basically in raw form, most simplest form, going to be the IP address of the router / cgi-bin / semicolon, reboot. Now watch this. I hit enter. Now watch what happens. Let's try and use Google. You see how it's loading? I'm not getting any access. If I go to Windows right here, this is my status symbol for, now see, it's down. it's not connected, because in effect we executed the reboot command and it literally rebooted my router. Okay, it's that's what happened. That's what this is. It completely reboots the router. You can see here I'm not connected, and now the router is going to reboot and it's going to reconnect itself, and then I'll get internet access back. See, there we go. Now I can refresh the page and get back on the internet. Okay, now I've made an exploit specifically for this called exploit.py. Import socket, sys, and the time modules. It sets the socket default timeout to 5. Now when I run the program, you see that it takes some arguments. First parameter is the target IP, then the target port, the command to execute, and the number of iterations. And this is all set up right here. Host equals the first argument, port is the second one, command's the third one, and the number of iterations is the fourth argument, or you can leave it blank and default to 100. Now, the address is a tuple containing the host and the port. The GET request is get cgi-bin, semicolon. This is the important part. Not parentheses, %s, and then the rest of the thing here, the rest of the request. Then there's another %, and then the command variable, which we set up here. This %s tells it to take this variable and stick it right here in the middle of the request. So whatever you add in as the argument is going to be put into the HTTP request and sent to the server. Now it takes this counter variable, counter equals 0, and while counter is less than or equal to the number of iterations you want to run, it does a loop. It does a try statement. It tries to connect to the socket address to send the GET request that you made to the server, and then it prints that it was successful. And if it is successful, it tells you that the next attempt probably will not be, because the server will be down, because it'll be rebooting. Then it's going to close the socket, it's going to increment the counter variable, and it's going to sleep for 1 second. Now it's going to go back through this again because it's a loop. This time it's probably going to fail because it'll throw an error because the server's down. So it'll get right here in this try statement, it'll throw an error, and then it'll jump down to this except, where it catches the error. It's going to tell you that the connection was reset and unavailable. It's going to close the socket. It's going to sleep for 10 seconds to give the server time to reboot. Then it's going to run the exploit again. And it's going to do this over and over and over. Now to give you an example, I'm going to run it right here using this script I've written. Exploit.py 192.168.1.1 is the first argument. Port 80 is the second one. The command reboot is the third one. And let's do this for 25 iterations. Now it's running. I'm going to try and refresh YouTube. And you'll see that this thing's about to go down. I mean, it actually is down now. See, there you go. And now look at my network connection sharing center. It's not connected to the router, and it's definitely not connected to the internet. So this vulnerability will run over and over and over for as many times as you tell it to. And anybody that uses this network, this default gateway to connect to the internet, will be affected by this and won't be able to have consistent internet access. Even if they get internet access for 3 seconds while this thing's sleeping, waiting to run again, it's just going to go right back down when it goes back into that loop. And you can see right now, I still don't have access. I can go to, Google.com. Nothing. It's just absolutely shut down because of this vulnerability. So anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'll just show you here. I'm going to stop this. We're using Control-C. Give it a few seconds and it'll boot up. And you'll see that my internet access comes back. There you go. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Maybe learned something. Be sure to check us out and stay updated because we'll probably be putting more videos back soon. Thank you.